About a month ago, I received a comment on one of my videos asking how to pronounce the transcription that I put into my videos. And it didn't really occur to me until then that a lot of people wouldn't know how to pronounce those symbols, and that I do use a very altered version of what I am trying to use, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet. So I use a lot of symbols from the IPA, but I don't actually use the IPA itself because using the IPA to its fullest extent would make my reconstructions of Egyptian almost completely unreadable to the average person. But still, there are a lot of symbols that I use that are still not known to most people, and so I wanted to go in and explain what some of those symbols are so that you don't have to go through the tedious process of going to the Wikipedia for the International Phonetic Alphabet, going through the entire page and trying to find each symbol that I use. Instead, I'm just going to talk about them here since I think that'll be easier for everyone. Also, I set up my desk finally, but I have yet to get a chair, so right now I'm just sitting on my bed. So I have here a list of symbols that I typically use, and the first one that is pretty common is the schwa, which is basically when you start from the Latin alphabet, which is what I'm going to be starting from since that's my native language, is English. The schwa is an upside down E letter, and it's pronounced very neutrally. It is the most neutral vowel there is. So when you open your mouth, relax your tongue, and do not move your lips, you make that sound. That's the schwa. The next symbol is this symbol, which is a voiced velar fricative, or velar fricative. It's pronounced kind of back in your throat. So what it means is that voiced means that you vibrate your vocal cords when you speak it, which is different from just a voiceless. For example, F is a voiceless phoneme, so it goes f. You don't vibrate your vocal cords when you pronounce F. You just go f. Velar means that it is articulated in the back of the throat, so it's using the back of your tongue. And the fricative means that it is created through friction, by constricting the airflow through a narrow channel at the place of articulation, which is in the back of the throat. And so the best way that I can describe it, coming from, again, the English alphabet, is it is kind of like a G, G, but pronounced continuously, fricative, G. So, G. Another symbol that I typically use is this voiced pharyngeal fricative, which is it's very changeable. The thing is that it supposedly corresponds to a letter in the Egyptian alphabet that we don't have a super clear idea of how is pronounced. However, I tend to use this symbol and usually this pronunciation whenever I see that letter in Al-Istinad's transcription. What it means by voiced pharyngeal fricative is that, again, it is voiced, meaning it is sounded using your vocal cords. It's a fricative or approximant, which means it varies between those two things. It is produced at a narrow point in your vocal tract at the place of articulation, but generally not enough to produce a lot of turbulence in your airstream. What it means by pharyngeal is that it is articulated with the tongue root against the back of the throat. This is a pretty common sound in Arabic languages. I still struggle with it sometimes pronouncing it, and so you'll see that I definitely had issues with that in a lot of my earlier hymns, and I still have sometimes issues with pronouncing it in certain words because it's not a sound that exists in the English language. It's like a It's very difficult for me to pronounce, and I get kind of embarrassed when I try. But that is the sound, and that's kind of a sound that I use a lot. Another fun symbol that I use, and this time it's voiceless, meaning it is made without the use of your vocal cords, like the f, is a voiceless pharyngeal fricative, and it basically looks like an H with a line through it. Again, voiceless. Pharyngeal, meaning it is articulated with the tongue root against the back of the throat, and it is fricative, meaning it is produced by constricting the airflow. And so it sounds like h. It's a hard H, kind of, h. Another symbol that I use is this one right here, which is a voiced palatal fricative. Again, voiced, meaning you use your voice box. Fricative, meaning that it is produced by constricting your airflow. And palatal, meaning it is articulated in the middle or back part of the tongue, raised to your hard palate. The hard palate is the top of your mouth, the roof. So it's a y sound. Y. Y. Another fun symbol that I use is this sort of capital R symbol, but it's not a capital R, obviously. What it is a voiced uvular trill. And so again, voice meaning it has your voice box, trill meaning it is trilled, and the most common kind of trill sound that is used in a lot of languages is this one, rrr. But this one is uvular, meaning it is produced with your, the back of your tongue at your uvula, which is the little thing that dangles in the back of your tongue. So it's a rrr, rrr, kind of like a cat's purr. Another symbol is this glottal stop, and this is another symbol that corresponds to a phoneme in the Egyptian alphabet that we're not quite sure how it's pronounced, but this is one of the possibilities of how it's pronounced, and I tend to use this one, although not always. The glottal stop means it is occlusive or plosive. It is produced by obstructing the airflow in your vocal tracts. And the fact that it is glottal means it is produced by your vocal cords. And the next symbol is a voiceless palatal fricative, and it looks a little bit like a C. This is a letter that is also present, I believe, in the Turkish alphabet, but I think it's pronounced differently. I'm not sure. Voiceless means it is produced without vibration from the vocal cords. Palatal means it is articulated with the middle or back part of the tongue raised to your hard palate, again, the top of your mouth. And fricative means it is produced by constricting airflow. So it's kind of like a so it's a bit sharper than the but it's very similar. You'll notice that I actually kind of mispronounce this in a lot of my hymns, and that's because I was using it for a while as a way to represent the ch sound, and this was incorrect. I mean, it is correct for some languages that use this symbol to represent that sound, but for the IPA, technically it's incorrect. The next symbol looks a lot like an R, except it's a little different, just missing that little line at the top, and it's basically the same. One thing to know is that when I talk about R, I'm usually talking about the American English R, which is pronounced It's a very throaty sound, honestly, but usually in ancient Egyptian, when I talk about R, it's a R sound, so it's a trilled sound, but this one specifically is a voiced alveolar tap. Which means that it's not trilled, it's just tapped. It's not r, it's r. It's one trill, one tap. Alveolar means it is articulated behind the upper front teeth or on the alveolar ridge, and it is produced with the tip of your tongue tapping against that area, basically. So that's it for the uncommon letters that I use. These letters I use mostly because I want to represent a specific sound that is not really present in English. The base of the alphabet that I use is English, American English, because again, that is my native language. And the letters that I take from the IPA are used to substitute for sounds that are not present in English. And again, the reason that I don't fully use IPA is that it is almost completely unreadable to anyone, and even to those who are fluent in the IPA, it might take them a little while to read it and understand exactly how the sounds go. For example, if you take a look at the IPA Wikipedia, it will show you how to pronounce IPA written in the International Phonetic Alphabet. And it's difficult. It is very difficult. It is full of diacritics and symbols that are somewhat familiar and some that aren't super familiar. And so this kind of segues into my next thing, which is diacritics. I have talked about now the symbols that I use that are letters, but I also use a lot of diacritics that may be a little confusing to people, so I want to talk about those as well. So this diacritic indicates vowel length. It's basically just two triangles pointing at each other, and it comes after a vowel, or it comes after syllable? I think it's called a syllable. So it indicates length, which means basically that the syllable that it is after is lengthened. I use this also to indicate stress of a vowel, not just length. There can be a lot of difference when you put the stress on a different part of the word. For example, the word record could be record or record, depending on which syllable you put the stress on. And because of those, they have two different meanings, and so I think it's pretty important to have that kind of distinction in Egyptian as well, at least as much as I can make of it. This next diacritic is just a line over the top of a letter. I'm going to use the letter A just to represent the common letter or whatever it would be used on. Usually this is used on a vowel, and this one also marks long and heavy syllables, at least for me. This little comma after a letter is representative of an adjective, basically. I kind of use this as a superscript glottal stop because I don't really feel like typing in a superscript glottal stop every single time I want to, show an adjective. So in a more accurate IPA would look something like this, not what I use. Another diacritic that I use is a period, and I have had someone ask me what that means and how to pronounce that. The period doesn't mean anything. I use it because it is used in the transliteration of ancient Egyptian to represent a difference between the root word and an add-on, such as a prefix or a suffix that might be a pronoun. So that doesn't mean anything. That's just to show you that the word is, kind of two words put together, because that's a little bit how ancient Egyptian worked. And then there's this little H at the top, which is basically a superscript H next to a letter, which means that it is aspirated. There's a bit more of a to it, a bit more breathy, basically. Aspiration basically is a strong burst of breath that accompanies either the release or, in the case of pre-aspiration, the closure of some obstruents. That's the exact thing that I wrote down here in my notes. Then we have this superscript schwa, which is again that symbol, which is just a super neutral vowel. That is a mid-central vowel release, meaning basically you have a vowel, and then when you go to release it, when you stop it, it ends in that schwa. And then we have a superscript W, which indicates labialization, basically w. Labialization involves the lips, while the remainder of the oral cavity produces another sound. It is mainly based on consonants. So for this, an A technically wouldn't work very well. You'd want to do more of a K, which would be ku, basically, ku. And then finally we have this little half circle on top of a letter, which is a brev, meaning that it shortens the syllable or the vowel. Basically the opposite of the vowel lengthening thing that I talked about earlier. So the way that I write things in my IPA English language is going to be a little different from the way I sing it. It's very difficult to incorporate phonemes that I am not used to as a native English speaker into singing, which is something that I've never really professionally been trained in. And I don't know the melody before I start singing it. Basically, in my process of creating these hymns on the musical part of things, is that I record all of the guitar and drums and all of that part so that I have the basic melody down, and then I just start singing. I don't know what melody I'm going to sing, what notes I'm going to sing, I just know that it has to work out, which means that I'm basically freestyling it while also trying to incorporate a bunch of sounds and words that I don't know. Which made, obviously, Nefertum's much faster hymn quite difficult. But it was still a lot of fun. But to kind of showcase that, I want to take a look at Anuket's hymn and kind of go through how I would pronounce the first verse if I wasn't singing it. So basically, how I would pronounce it if I were to more accurately look at my own alphabet. So let's listen to it first, and then I will try and pronounce it more accurately. All right, here we go. Yenach hirikt anukit nabit lubu. Yeretri au nabit pit chanawit natru nibu. Natrit shapsit nens nawitis. Zagaprit gaut nabits matelpin. Obviously that verse didn't have absolutely all of the symbols that I use, but it's okay. I think it's fine. If you have any questions, let me know. I will try and respond to them to the best of my ability. As I said in an earlier post, I am going to be kind of busy for the next month and a half or so, and then I start school again. So that's going to be super fun. But I will try and stay on kind of a weekly posting schedule, and yeah, we're gonna keep working on hymns and just see how it goes. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope this video was informative and kind of helped you a little bit in understanding the letters and diacritics that I use.